It's time for Lefties Losing It, and the Democrats are in all sorts of trouble. Their brand is in the toilet and circling the drain, and things are about to get worse with a new congressional map in Texas being voted on. And that has Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett losing it. She may even lose her seat. She's certainly lost all sense of decorum. Listen to how she speaks about President Donald Trump here.
Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes. He is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this.
After her foul-mouthed, ghetto-like tirade against the US president, Jasmine went on the attack, this time with the Supreme Court, making all sorts of wild claims.
But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them.
That all sounds rather insurrection-y to me. She doesn't respect the rulings of the Supreme Court. She just accused them of taking bribes. And here she is threatening to beat down Republicans.
They expect Democrats to kind of be the nice guys that we are. They expect us to take the punch and say thank you. Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we about to beat you down.
No one thinks Democrats are the nice guys, Jasmine. And did you see the others clapping there like deranged seals? And talking about deranged, here is Democrat Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer lying, just lying.
You know, it keeps getting worse. Today, Donald Trump and the White House announced they're going to spend $200 million to build a large, fancy White House ballroom. This is what Doge was all about, folks. Cutting things, taking things away from you, and not giving it to some place that needed it, giving it to the big shots who run the show, Donald Trump at the top of the list. Maybe he can park his new plane in the big ballroom. It's probably big enough.
Now, Chuck knew he was lying there. He knew. He's not stupid, but he knows he can get away with it. And so he felt rather comfortable fronting the media to repeat those same lies, suggesting taxpayers were footing the bill for this planned ballroom. Watch this clip, followed by a quick fact check from Caroline Levitt.
Here's even something more confounding. Some breaking news. Just now, the White House announced construction of a $200 million White House ballroom that will begin in September. A $200 million ballroom. Where'd this money come from? Did Congress appropriate it? I don't think so. It's almost like Doge was never about waste at all.
President Trump and other donors have generously committed to donating the funds necessary to build this approximately $200 million structure.
Now, I've often argued that we need to bring back asylums, make asylums great again, and here is further proof that there is a shortage. This lefty is having a murderous meltdown because Donald Trump axed taxpayer-funded NPR and something called Tiny Desk. Cue tantrum.
I don't give a Just kill him! You have to!
Now, let's check in on some activists, those keen enough to make signs and turn up to protests, claiming the president is a fascist and the real criminals are in the White House. You know, you'd expect those folk to be really across the issues, have some in-depth knowledge.
What crimes have they committed?
Trump?
Yeah, the ones in the Oval Office. What crimes have those people committed?
You want to look it up on Wikipedia? There's like a list.
Well, you made the sign, so I'm asking you.
It's true. I'm at a protest, though.
Yeah.
I don't need to know anything. I'm here for my community.
Okay, so you make a sign about people being criminals, but you don't know what you made it for?
All right, so I make a sign supporting my community and the people in it. Yeah. And I'm not ashamed.
I think he should be ashamed of it, but here are some more protesters who have absolutely no idea what they're protesting, who they're protesting or why, but they're there holding signs.
Do you think Charlie Kirk is a white supremacist? I don't know who that is. who you're protesting.
Charlie who?
Charlie Kirk.
I don't know who Charlie Kirk is.
He's the CEO of Turning Point USA. It's the whole reason for the protest.
Now, I've been accused of stereotyping folks with septum rings as lefties. Well, here is a septum-wearing lefty confirming that it's not a stereotype, it's just facts.
All leftists look the same. Yeah, babe, it's because we want you to know, okay? I put the septum ring on and I said, everybody is going to be able to identify me as a leftist. Yeah.
And here is another sad girl with a septum ring living up to the stereotype beautifully.
I'm definitely not proud to live in this country. Trump is a piece of shit. The Republican Party is a piece of shit. You know why Kamala gave me hope? It wasn't her, it was Tim Walz. I'm a Minnesotan. I know what he stands for.
Now, this next clip is rather adorable. Here you have a lefty mum, a Democrat, being trolled by her own son. This is love.
So I'm staying the night with my son, and he has a very sick sense of humor. He made a Trump bedroom for me. Notice Trump toilet paper, Trump mug shots. And he said, open the closet, open the closet. A life-size freaking, I don't even believe it.
Superb. She may be a lefty, but obviously she's raised a sensible son. I think you should do that to any lefty family members you may have. If you invite them over, decorate the room accordingly. Now, President Trump was asked about the ad that's got everyone talking, American Eagle's Sydney Sweeney ads, and watch his reaction when he's told the actress is a registered Republican.
Sydney Sweeney, she's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic.
I like how you put that condition on it. If she is a registered Republican, I'm not sure he's convinced. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, there is a cultural shift happening in the US. We're seeing a move away, even in these commercials that are so typically woke. The whole fat positivity thing seems to be forgotten, and we're getting back to objective standards of beauty.
It does sound like the pendulum finally might be swinging back. We're at this tipping point. I think it all goes back to November and Trump coming back with a bang and, winning everything, including the popular vote, which tells you what the sentiment is publicly. Then I would put Colbert's cancellation and Rosie and Ellen and everybody leaving the country as one measure. And then this ad. And what will be very interesting is to see what happens to Sydney Sweeney's career from here. Now that she's been outed as a registered Republican, will Hollywood casting folk try to cancel her or not? And if they don't, and she continues to land roles or modeling gigs, and I think for sure we can say that the moment has arrived and all that woke stuff is thankfully in the past.
Now, American Eagle is certainly benefiting from this controversy. They're seeing their share price go up, a lot of interest in their products. Let's look at Dunkin' Donuts' latest ad. They're hoping for a similar outcome.
I didn't ask to be the king of summer. It just kind of happened. This tan? Genetics. I just got my color analysis back. Guess what? Golden summer. Literally. I can't help it.
Maybe because it's a man, it hasn't caused as much controversy, but it's still caused quite a bit of a stir, and it's got that trigger word genetics in there.
So funny, and he's a young actor from a TV show, and so they're casting somebody and using that trigger word, which is what it is. It's interesting from a creative decision perspective. It's not that original, given the other agency just use that same word. But to the point that we're making about this continuum that we're on, it's interesting, and there's almost a divergence because you have the Bud Light fiasco, you have the Jaguar ad, which totally was panned just a week ago, and stock is falling, shares are falling, sales are falling, and then on this side, American Eagle is ascendant. Not for maybe fundamental reasons, but certainly the market seems to be rewarding them in the past couple of weeks. And so other brands like Dunkin' Donuts are looking at those two and deciding to be on this side of the ledger and not along with Bud Light.
Who knows? Maybe they came up with that first. I mean, just because we've looked at it second doesn't mean the creatives, they may have been first. Now, let's get to the serious stuff. The Democrats, including senior Democrats like Elizabeth Warren, are getting behind Zoran Mamdani. They think the party needs to lurch further left.
Progressive, social. Is this what the party should look like?
Yes.
Democratic Party
You bet. The Democratic Party needs to stand up and be clear. We are the party that fights for affordability for working families. That means child care, that means housing, it means health care. It means making this country work better for the working people who make this country work.
All right, last question.
I get a little excited about this. Okay. All right.
There you go. Pocahontas is all excited. Kosher, he's not a fringe dweller in the Democrats anymore, and in many ways he's representative of the modern Democrats.
He is. Now, this socialist strain has long been present in the Democrat Party and in the left wing of politics everywhere. But what's interesting here is when it used to just be about, working class and using the collective as a way to redistribute wealth and all of that, he's got that. At least he's touting those policies, as does Elizabeth Warren. But then he's this mishmash of trans rights and intifada and racial justice and all that stuff rolled in together, which is different from what it used to be. But I think the problem is the root issue here is economic inequality is on the rise. Young people can't get a foothold in the economy with housing and jobs and all of that. So there's a lot of frustration, and there are two very high contrasting positions being presented by both sides. For the right, it's low taxes, no tax on tips, stopping illegal immigration, which competes in the job market, et cetera. And on the left, though, you've got this stuff about handing out free things and making the big, bad, evil, rich people pay.
His supporter base, certainly from what we've seen of the data, is affluent. He had more support amongst those affluent voters who you would think would be looking at his policy proposals and going, this isn't in our interest. But perhaps it is in their interest because they know how this game works.
And it's the virtue signaling. So the affluent people can afford the luxury belief because even with a bad economy, they're doing fine and they get to signal their virtue. He himself is one of those elites. He comes from a very rich background with both of his parents. So he's sort of a champagne socialist, as they say.
Oh, aren't they all? And let's hear from the Democrat Socialists of America. This is a member of that group, as well as a member of Mamdani's campaign. And he's explaining here about the policies they hope to implement.
Most importantly is we collaborated with the Zoran Mamdani campaign on his trans rights platform. And what we explicitly wanted to do was use the power of New York City to provide free gender-affirming care, and I say free in case insurance companies decide to boot us off, free gender-affirming care, not just to people in New York City, but across the country. When Zoran first kind of approached ESA leadership about running, his pitch was, he said, I'm going to get socialists to vote for me and I'm going to get Muslims to vote for me.
There you go, free sex changes for everyone, and an unholy alliance there between the socialists and Muslims. Kosher, most devout Muslims would be utterly horrified by the trans agenda, but they're still pushing ahead with this alliance. They seem to have a common enemy, but apart from that, I don't know what else they share.
So true. It's this coalition of the fringes. It's this mashup again of economic socialism with trans rights, with everything else. You're absolutely right. In Michigan, that group, the parental rights was a big issue, and they really got activated against the left, came out for Trump for the first time, actually, people who otherwise maybe didn't like Trump, but just because of this trans thing. These guys are ensconced in New York City, Mamdani, so they can afford to push those things. But you can't make this stuff up. Just looking at those guys, they're in their N95 masks, they all look that way.
Yes.
And it's like every pet issue,
casting.
all from central casting, pushing it. And now they're going to go from hotels housing massive amounts of illegal migrants to now hotels apparently housing gender-affirming care people, quote unquote.
And flying in people from all across the country, and the taxpayer will subsidise their sex change operations. And presumably, given the ideological point of view these people have, that includes under 18s.
It does, and the tax base is going to keep leaving because the rich people that fund that tax base are just continuing to leave New York for other places. Unfortunately, wherever they go, they take those policies with them.
Exactly.
But in the short term, that's going to keep happening.
Now, let's hear from the former President Joe Biden, who was honoured at the National Bar Association Gala event in Chicago over the weekend. And he made some observations about the Trump administration here.
Immigrants who are in this country legally, torn from the arms of their family, dragged away in handcuffs from the only home they've ever known. My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. It has been to ease all the gains we've made in my administration, to erase history.
Kosher, is Joe confused again? Because that's how elections work. The new guy comes in and he implements his policies that his people voted for, but he seems outraged there. It's like they're erasing history.
He is confused about a lot of things. This, I think, least among them. His former boss, President Obama, famously said, with my pen and my phone, I can do all sorts of things to reverse executive actions that were taken before him, and he did. And so did Biden himself do that. So, yes, that's what happens. It was not lost on me that he is being trotted out to keynote at the Bar Association, which has become a politicized organization. They're going after some of Trump's lawyers, trying to disbar them. All that's happening. So I don't think it was a coincidence that they chose to bring him out and put him there in the keynote spot.
They gave him an award on the night, so he was out there. But I do wonder if the Democrats are happy with Joe Biden being continuously in the media. About a week or so ago, we had his son, Hunter Biden, again, causing all sorts of headlines and trouble for the Democrats. No one would want him out there just going through what happened in the last 4 years.
The dirty laundry.
What chance to that? Could they appoint him to some sort of a body? Can they make him chair of something so he's got some obligation to not damage the brand further?
Hunter and Senior as well. I think both of them are a problem there. And you're right, because he's not the best spokesperson for them. You also have Kamala out there now doing a soft launch with her book. So there's nobody really that is doing that. And that's why you've got the Mamdanis of the world, AOC, who's actually raising money and doing very, very well. And she is articulate and she does have conviction for her positions, though fringe as they may be, versus these guys are not helping. He's still arguing the illegal immigration point, which is like an 80-20 issue now in favor of the Trump administration's policy agenda. So he's not helping the party, and they seem to be a little bit lost in the wilderness until they find a leader, a de facto leader who can speak well.
And Kamala was asked who is the current leader of the Democrats. She was on the Steve Colbert show and she couldn't come up with an answer. She, in fact, had no nominations and we got some sort of a word salad from her, as we often do. Now, before you go, President Trump has threatened India with even higher tariffs. They've already got a fairly poor deal with 25% tariff rate. And he's making this threat because India is buying oil from Russia. And we spoke about this last week. Trump really is fairly artfully using this tariff policy to get the foreign policy outcomes that he wants.
He does. It is a multi-layered lever for him, certainly for economics and pouring in external revenue, which has been happening. Also as a bargaining chip with Canada and Mexico, for instance, around the fentanyl and border issue. He's tying it together with tariffs. Now here, this one is a little bit controversial, where he is paying a price with his base that does not want the U.S. to interfere much more in the Ukraine-Russia saga. Certainly not militarily, but even this way, sort of going to quote-unquote war, economic war with allies like India for Russia. It's not something that has consensus in his base. But obviously he is frustrated with that war that he said famously he would end in 24 hours. Has not happened. He's been frustrated with Putin in recent weeks, and so he's trying this, and we'll see where it goes.
You're right. It's not popular with the base, and the same phenomenon is evident with Israel, probably to a greater extent, where he's making certain decisions based on how that country looks at Israel. And again, elements of the base don't want that. They want a pure America First approach.
It's become a polarizing issue for sure.
Welcome back. Let's check in on how MSNBC are going. Here they try to do a live cross, but there's an aggrieved young man who looks rather familiar, and he had this important message to impart to MSNBC viewers.
We just watched the speaker gavel out with a whole lot of anger, Kelly. Here's the state of play. Here's
MSNBC sucks.
Hey, how are you?
MSNBC sucks.
Talk to you for a second.
MSNBC sucks.
You can see.
Okay.
You can see the frustration.
Sometimes this happens.
Yep, that's our own Alex Stein, Primetime 99. He's making sure MSNBC's remaining viewers know that MSNBC sucks, and he wasn't done yet, though the MSNBC anchor thought he was.
Ryan has cleared the set, as we would like to say. The gentleman moved on. So, Ryan, let me turn back to you. Nicely handled there. Can you give us an update on, as you were walking us through this, we'll all take a breath there. Maybe not. Okay. Go ahead, Ryan. See,
hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Okay. We're just going to pull the plug there. Thank
Kelly,
you,
this
Ryan.
is all playing out in real time.
It sure
Passion
is
high.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of anger here, as you can see. So we're going to get control of this and come back to you when we can.
Fair enough, fair enough. And we recognize people are expressing their views, and we're there to cover it.
Joining me now is comedian and host of Primetime with Alex Stein on Blaze TV. Alex, what was that all about?
Well, Rita, today was a crazy day at the Capitol. Not only did they have a vote on redistricting, which, a lot of the progressives were going to lose a few of their, counties, but on top of that, today they were voting on a transgender bathroom bill, which will actually limit transgenders in women's spaces. So it was kind of a monumental day, and the bill ended up passing. So there was a lot of news media there. And, MSNBC, even though they lie about a lot of stuff, they are right. The energy was high in the Capitol today. And once I saw my opportunity to call out the MSDNC after what they've done to Donald Trump and the propaganda that they spread, it felt good to just to tell them how much they stink as a news media company.
Alex, I've got to say, MSNBC handled that better than I thought they would. I think deep down they know they suck. That's why they didn't fight it. But tell me about this bill that passed. What transgender laws have been changed in Texas?
The trans policy, why it's so important is that, people think it's just this issue where transgenders can go into women's spaces and just, the bathroom. But this is actually a bill that protects people in all spaces. That's the gym, that's locker rooms, that's in, any sort of public facility that the, state owns. So this is why it's important, because there's a lot of people that I hate to admit it, though, I was just there. It was literally all men trying to fight to be in women's spaces. I mean, there weren't that many, what I'd say female to male trans people there trying to fight to use the men's restroom. It was all men to female transgender people fighting to use women's spaces. But luckily it passed. And in Texas, it's a crime if you go into the bathroom and you're the wrong biological sex.
Well, that is good news. Now, played clips of Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett earlier threatening to beat down Republicans, calling the president a POS. She's a charmer, that one, and she may be gone. Tell me about what is happening in Texas with the congressional map.
Well, so the map is changing. Now there's going to be more conservative districts, but at the same time, they also got an entire Latino district and an African-American district. But what happens that just is it's just, like music to my ears. Because of this new redistricting, Jasmine Crockett is going to get drawn out of her seat. So there's, everybody in the state of Texas is very excited for this redistricting to get passed so we can say sayonara to Jasmine Crockett, who is probably one of the biggest frauds on Capitol Hill. So this is good news for the people that are actually paying attention. But at the same time, they couldn't get it done because there was not enough politicians there to actually get the quorum. So because all the progressives were gone, they weren't actually able to approve it. So we're still kind of at the same point where we started.
Well, what's happening with that? Because, we saw the Democrats fleeing to places like Chicago so they could avoid this vote being held and being passed. Surely that tactic can't work long term. What's going to happen next?
Well, right now, they're basically being held in contempt, and if they don't come back, they could be subject to arrest. But a lot of this, though, Rita, is it political theater, or are they actually going to arrest them and hold them accountable? So I hope it's the latter. I hope they actually arrest these people for, derelict of duty, because we have serious issues in Texas that need to be addressed, but instead of addressing those problems, these politicians are running to Illinois for Lord knows what reason. So they should be held accountable for not actually going and doing their job that they are elected to do by the Texas people. So I actually hope that it's not just lip service and these politicians actually have to pay a price for, turning their backs on their constituents.
Well, the Texas Attorney General has threatened to arrest them, and I really do hope they follow through with that. It shouldn't just be a threat. There's got to be consequences for this sort of behaviour, and it is a dereliction of duty. You're 100% right there, Alex. Now, let's move on to this interesting case, a soccer fan being kicked out of a stadium for wearing a MAGA hat. This is still happening. This was at a St. Louis City game.
So I'm Michael Weitzel. I'm being asked to leave by the police because of Donald Trump.
Hey, I'm a Donald Trumper.
You're a Trump fan?
I'm a man. Yes,
Yeah.
I am. And
So I just want
all these coppers you got to deal with are MAGA. But they're not political here. They don't want any kind of political.
So those flags over there,
Those are pre-approved.
those flags over there, those aren't political. So my question to you guys is, are these rules equally enforced on everybody?
Alex, as he points out, people in the crowd are waving pride flags, trans flags, but somehow that's not political, but wearing a MAGA cap is political, and one is acceptable, the other isn't?
Well, Rita, you know this. You spend a lot of time in the United States of America, and soccer may be the biggest sport globally, but here in America, we're all about American football. So this guy, if he goes to any NFL game this year, nobody's going to even, bat an eye. They'll probably celebrate him. So the fact that this is a soccer game, which is one of the least popular sports in our country, and they're kicking him out, it's really sad. I just hope that they don't go down the path of the WNBA and go out of business. We want more professional sports leagues, not less. So they need to stop alienating people, especially over half of the American people that voted for Donald Trump.
Absolutely. But we've got to get you a little bit interested in soccer, Alex, because the US is holding the World Cup next year and it is going to be enormous. Alex Stein, thank you so much for your time tonight.